Hello everyone. This is Alice of KHR Arts and Cloud Orchid Publishing, and today we are going to talk about what exactly does it take to be a self-published author. So many of y'all may be thinking, for any variety of reasons, traditional publishing is not for me. I'd prefer to publish it myself. How do I do that? Well, it means that you then have to put on all the hats that the publishing house normally takes care of for you. In order to take a manuscript and turn it into an actual book takes a lot of work, and it also can take a pretty hefty investment depending on how much you are able to do yourself or how much you have to farm out to other people to do for you. So let's break down what exactly that looks like. First and foremost, when you have a manuscript, a lot of times it's really helpful to hire an editor. Now, there are different kinds of editors that will edit at different levels for you. Make sure you understand your goals when hiring an editor and be clear about what your goals are for that editor to do with your manuscript. So, there are line editors. This is the one that most people commonly think of when they think of an editor. This is the person that takes out their red pen and go line by line in your story and make sure that there's no spelling, grammar, structure, errors, all that good stuff. They go through it with a fine-tooth comb and they let you know about every single tiny little detail that's wrong with it. There's also the editors that look at the book as a whole for you. This is also a really important part of the editing process, whether you do it yourself or you have somebody else pay to do it for you. Now, what this means is that they look at it from a business standpoint. They look at how marketable your book is, and they'll let you know what you can do in order to make it better so that it's more marketable. So, for instance, let's say you have a fantasy novel. They'll ask you, is this mature? Is this young adult? Is this children? They'll ask you what your audience is, what your goals with the book are. And from there, they will let you know what parts of it that will or will not appeal to your audience and what you need to do in order to make sure that you properly appeal to your audience. This is an important distinction. Something that a lot of people struggle with is that you have to make sure that you are not breaching your audience guidelines, because otherwise people are going to either not want to buy your book or you're going to get bad press about your book. Obvious is obvious. You don't want to write mature content and then try to sell it to 5-year-olds. That one's obvious. The ones that are less obvious are the type of things with the type of structure and language. So for instance, young adult fiction is a lot more of a quick and easy read compared to mature audiences. This means the types of words that you use, sentence structure, style, all of that. You need to make sure that you are writing to your audience and the readability that they are comfortable with. And this type of editor will help you to do that. A lot of people don't have the training to know the difference between these things, and it can be hard to understand how exactly to write within those parameters. Again, this isn't so much writing within a box or a formula or anything like that. It's just making sure that your story is consistent with the audience that you are trying to reach. Once you've gone through the editing process, whether you hired people to do it for you or whether you did it yourself or some combination or used beta readers, whatever have you, the next step is deciding on a platform that you want to publish it through. Whether you use something like Amazon, their creative suite is super helpful in that it helps you through the entire process of making it into a book and selling the book. There's also things like Ingram Sparks. They also help you to a certain extent. There's also a lot of give and take with these different platforms on how and when you can make changes to your book. So let's say you want to put out a new edition or you find errors in it and you want to put out a new version of it that has those corrected. You want to put a different cover, whatever have you. These platforms are going to have different rules and sometimes different fees for being able to do stuff like that. They're also going to have different pros and cons, just like anything in life, honestly. Make sure you do your research and that you know which platform you want to use that's going to work best for you, your book, and your strategy. Personally, Cloud Orchid Publishing, we are using Amazon. And the reason why we are doing that is because it helps to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. It gives us a platform where we have full creative control in order to upload as many iterations, versions, whatever have you, of the books with no fees. As well as it also helps us to better reach a selling audience in that there's already that platform built in with a huge audience to reach. The con to that is there's a lot of noise we have to contend with. That means we are competing with all the other people that have also published their books on Amazon. It's a tricky beast. Ingram is also a great way to go if you just want your book to be a book and you're going to worry about selling it yourself. But keep in mind that that also comes with its own limitations and cons as well. So again, make sure you do your research before deciding on what platform you're going to use. Once you've determined that, the platform will oftentimes tell you what is required in order to make your book into a book. So frequently they'll either have a standard formatting that you have to follow for your book, or they'll have some different choices that you can choose from for the different formatting that you can have for your book. And when I say formatting, I mean the actual physical it being a book. So that means the size of the book, soft cover versus hardcover, the way that the cover art is laid out, size of spine, the way text is laid out, and of course, inside the actual book, the gutter and the margins and how the text is presented on the page. All of that is super important to consider when making your book into an actual book. Again, if you do not have experience in layout design, it is often preferable for you to either hire someone to do it for you or to purchase one of the services out there that helps you to format your book properly. This is important because this is readability for your readers. It's very hard to read a book that's not properly formatted. I mean, think about it this way. If you were to pick up a book and then inside of it, the formatting is crooked or the text is in the gutter so that you can't even see half of what you're reading, or if the font is crazy and it's hard to read, it's too big, it's too small, etc., whatever, you need to make sure that you do fit within certain standards regardless of your personal style in order for your readers to be able to read your book. It's also important to consider accessibility in terms of the font and the font size. Many people, I mean, I wear glasses, but there are also people who are visually challenged and people who have other challenges. So always make sure you're taking that into consideration too with the fonts and font sizes and layouts that you choose for your book. Be considerate of your readers because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to make you successful. Worry most about them. We all know that fun phrase, don't judge a book by its cover, but let's all be real. Everybody judges books by their cover, especially in the digital age of social media that we live in. Many people just scroll through websites, scroll through news feeds, all that good stuff, and what's the first thing they see when they see an ad about a book? They see the cover. A big part of making your book into your book is making sure that the cover art is going to attract your audience. This is a big thing that you need to take into consideration is the actual image on the cover and the style of font, the color of font, and the way that it's laid out on the actual book as well as the back copy in order to attract someone to click on your book and buy it in the first place. Or even if we're working in a traditional setting and you are lucky enough to have self-published your book and manage to get it physically on shelves in some bookstores, it's the same principle. People walk past the bookshelf, see the cover of your book, and pick it up. You need to make sure that your cover is attractive to the audience that you are trying to reach. Second most important thing, the back copy. A lot of people don't realize this. The back copy is super important to selling your book because not only does it appear on the actual physical back cover of your book, but it is also going to be the book description on most websites where you are going to be selling your book, as well as making your posts on social media to sell your book. You're going to probably be using a lot of that back copy for that too. So this is super important. It's the synopsis of your book. It's making sure that you can grab the reader to want to then open your book and actually read it. A lot of people will hire people to do this because there are a lot of people who specifically do that for a living because they understand the type of marketing that it takes in order to sell a book. And again, this is all about business. This is all about selling. It's not about any sort of artistic or creativity with your book. It is literally about the buzzwords and the hook to get your reader interested. So, super important piece. The IBN code. A lot of people don't know what that is, and that's okay. It's something that I myself learned on this adventure of becoming an author. The IBN code is literally the barcode on your book. That's what it means. It's something that you have to pay for and register if you are not being traditionally published. This will enable you to sell your book in bookstores and have it processed and put in libraries. Those are two big important pieces of being able to sell your book. I highly recommend investing in IBN codes if you go the self-publishing route. Again, please remember that this is taken from the business standpoint. If you are an author who just wants to write a personal piece to share with family and friends and you're not interested in the business aspect and making sales and stuff like that, that's okay. Perfectly okay, but that's not what we're talking about here today. So, of course, everything we're talking about, take this from the business aspect of things and not just the personal goal of just publishing a book. That being said, a big part of self-publishing is that you have to get other people to love your book as much as you do. And that can be really hard to do, as I said, especially with all of the noise you're competing with on social media with everyone else who is trying to do the same thing. That means that when all is said and done, it's finally a book, you've laid it out, you've gotten the cover art, you've gotten your IBN number, all that good stuff. You have to sell it. This is a big thing that a lot of publishing companies will take the brunt of. Even with a traditional publishing company, you still have to have a marketing plan. You still have to reach your audience, but they help you with that. Whereas if you're self-publishing, you're on your own. Whether you hire someone to help you do that for you or you do it yourself, you're going to need a plan. Social media has helped make that easy because it gives us an automatic audience to be able to go out there and find and be a part of. There are so many great author and writing communities on social media. It's just a matter of finding them and ingraining yourself in them. I've spent years working very hard on my social media presence to grow it to what it is today, as well as I still to this day continue to work hard to grow it. And that's because it's something that you can't just be like, oh, okay, I did the thing, now I can just sit back. There is never just you just sit back. It's an ongoing thing that you have to keep growing in order to get success. Because as we all know with social media, it's all TLDR, and that's so 5 minutes ago. If you don't keep growing your presence, you will be obsolete, people will forget you, and your book sales will dry up. So when making your book into a book, it's also important to remember the marketing along the way. There are certain milestones that you absolutely want to make sure are a part of your marketing plan. One of the big ones for books is the cover art reveal. That's a big one for getting your readers excited about when it's going to be available for sale, is finally showing them what is the book even going to look like? And then, of course, all of those kind of posts with the teasers about what the book is about, why you wrote it, and why they should buy it, all that good stuff. You need to make sure that you have that plan together. Make sure that you have the graphics in order to capture people's attention. Because again, TLDR, people don't like to read. And I know this sounds like an oxymoron because you're trying to sell books, which people are meant to read. But in terms of social media, people respond to images and videos. So as I'm doing this and talking with y'all on here, this is a big part of it. Connecting with your community, connecting with your audience. Put yourself out there. Give them reasons for why they should read your book, why they should follow you as a creative person, all that good stuff. You want to build that readership and that following on a professional and personal level. Make sure that you're making the effort. Aside from social media, of course, there's also the in-person stuff that I mentioned. Going to conventions, going to events, doing book signings, talking on panels, all that good stuff is very important in staying relevant and helping to get your books out there. One of the big strategies that is always popular, I mean, well, it's a bit of a struggle right now in the world of COVID, but Previously to COVID, a big part of this piece of the puzzle was book release parties. What this was the day that your book is officially released and available for sale, you have a party. I mean, who doesn't like a good party? Basically, a lot of times people would have these book release parties at conventions where they're already going to be able to reach an audience of people, or they would host them at events. It's literally what it sounds like. You just get a bunch of people together, throw a party, show up, and be like, by the way, buy my book, y'all. That's what a book release party basically is. It's a big party where you convince everyone there to come buy your book and have a good time, drink, dance, whatever it is you want to do for your party. Get creative. And even though we can't do a lot of in person stuff now with the pandemic, you can have online parties. A lot of people have been doing this during the pandemic, doing their book releases via Facebook Live, Instagram Live, via Twitch channel, YouTube, all that good stuff. Do a live stream book release party. Get your followers excited about it. Have contests, have raffles, do whatever you have to do in order to draw people's interest. Make it fun. As much as I say, yes, this is a business and you need to treat it like a business, you also have to make it fun because we are creative people. And the whole point of why we do this is because reading is fun. So, make sure that you pay attention to your business plan, put together a marketing plan, do your research, and of course, make it fun for your readers. I hope this has been helpful. Be sure to leave me comments below if you have any questions. And again, I only know what I know from personal experience and the experiences of people I know, so I may not have an answer to your question, but I'm sure there is an answer to your question out there. So, thank you all so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.